Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at a Charizard EX deck that I've been working on. So basically, when I was first trying out Charizard EX, I was pairing it up with basically what you'd imagine, stuff like Arceus and Pidgeot, and I wasn't too interested in Bibarel. But in all honesty, after playing more and more of Charizard on the ladder, I can safely say this deck absolutely needs Bibarel because Path to the Peak is everywhere. And if you look at some of the latest online tournaments, most of the top decks are running either 2 to 3 copies of Path to the Peak, if not 4 copies, or they're just playing 4 counter stadiums. And being a stage 2 deck, you really need to bear that in mind because you obviously can't afford to play like 4 or so stadiums. I did consider Pumpkaboo actually, someone did suggest that in a recent comment section, I think on a community tab. I do think Pumpkaboo is a good idea, but unfortunately, I don't want to play Level Ball in this list. Oh wait, am I playing? That's a good question actually. Am I actually playing Level Ball in this list or not? Because no, okay, so this list I was playing for Nest Ball. So basically, I didn't want to switch to Level Ball. I wanted to just go with Nest Ball temporarily because I was going to experiment with some more like techie cards, like the new Entei, I believe. Yeah, new Entei, because I was like worried about grass type attackers being tagged into decks on the ladder and stuff. But yeah, also Nest Ball can find Radiant Charizard, whereas Level Ball can't. But yeah, so back to Pumpkaboo. I was going to try out Level Balls and Pumpkaboos because, you know, you can't Nest Ball for Pumpkaboo in order for it to work. You have to use stuff like Ultra Ball or Level Ball. But I haven't found room for that yet, and space is pretty tight this list. I've had a Cleffer in here as well, which has just gone in and out of the list. But basically, I do think you need Bibarel because if your opponent plays something like Iono PAL in the late game, you're just cooked. Like, you are just cooked. You've just basically lost at that point if you've not, like, set up your win condition on the board already, which, admittedly, you can do with this deck, thanks to Charizard, of course, accelerating 3 energy cards from the deck, which is honestly, I still think the best thing about this card, to be honest. Like, the typing is whatever. Like, Mew VMAX isn't that popular on the ladder, even after winning the World Championship. God of War, you know, they already have, like, single prize attackers that are very fragile, so I don't think it makes too much of a difference into that matchup. And then the attack itself, Burning Darkness, is pretty strong, to be fair. Like, you could be losing the game, like, the whole time. Like, your opponent could take 4 prize cards, you could take 0, and then you'll just make this massive comeback with Charizard, which is honestly one of the reasons why I think a lot of people kind of dislike this deck right now, because it is very straightforward and easy to play. I think maybe Charizard could have been balanced out a little bit more if the ability was Accelerate 2 energy, because then, you know, that would at least force you to have more preparation, I guess, and, you know, better management of energy and resources, especially when it comes to manual attachments, because of course, with this deck, you don't actually have to worry about getting energy on Charmander turn 1, like you do with stuff like Tyranitar. Basically, what you can do is just say, right, I'm not going to attach an energy, or I'm going to use it for Radiant Greninja or something like that. Then you can just Rare Candy to Charizard, accelerate the energy for Burning Darkness, as well as accelerating energy to another Pokemon. You can also use this ability, of course, to accelerate basic energy to an Arceus if you really wanted to. Now, we'll probably be using Starbirth most of the time anyway to get our Charizard deck set up, but Arceus is obviously a very strong attacker in its own right. 200 damage for 3 colorless energy, and you get to accelerate up to 3 basic energy cards from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you like. Now, you could play other Pokemon V like Delphox V or Entei V. Personally, I'm not a fan of those options in this deck. I don't think they're necessary, but, you know, something to consider if you really want to. But typically, I don't end up using more than 1 Arceus in a game. So even though Arceus V is a very, very good starter for this deck, a very good like starting Pokemon, then I would suggest maybe you could go down to a 2-2 Arceus, but I've already gone down from a 3-4 Arceus because it's just so good to start with this card, the Arceus V I should say. But basically, yeah, that's like the best starter of the deck aside from Cleffa. Cleffa kind of like went in and out of this list. It'd probably be on the thumbnail because I'm too lazy to change that. Sorry. But yeah, I really like Cleffa in this deck, but for this list in particular, I don't think it's necessary, especially if you're playing Bibarel, but that's just my opinions. You could add a Cleffer if you really wanted to. Yeah, but yeah, back to Arceus, I guess. Got a bit sidetracked there. But yeah, 200 damage, really solid. I am playing Double Turbo, which isn't something that everyone seems to be doing right now. I'm playing 4 copies, which admittedly, maybe you could go down to 3 copies. It's just so that you have more chances to open with it in the opening hand. as well as if you need to, use it in the mid to late game, like you use Arceus as a reserve attacker, or maybe even attack with Bibarel if you really, really want to. Or, of course, something like Pidgeot with Blustery Wind, which can be pretty decent attack, honestly. You may discard a Stadium in play and deal 120, which would go down to 100 damage. Still, discarding a Stadium could get rid of a Path to the Peak, could save you the game. Pretty important to bear in mind. But yeah, you don't really want to be attacking with Pidgeot, but at least it's also a nice pivot, which is good. But yeah, only 1-1 Pidgeot because there's obviously not a lot of room. Like just playing the bare requirements for this deck, no Charmeleon or anything, not even the 4th copy of Charmander. Up to 18 Pokemon. So you do have to be careful with this list. I do prefer running 4 Charmander in all honesty, because realistically, if you prize a Charmander or, one gets discarded or boss KO'd early on, then it can be really awkward to chain Charizards in the late game, because even though Charizard is just like a really efficient way of getting into the game in the early game, of course, mid to late game, that's when Burning Darkness will really shine through. So that's obviously, something you need to bear in mind when building these decks is also like, if Charizard is going to be like the main attacker throughout most of the game, you do need to make sure that you have Charmanders and Charizards on the ready, which is also why a lot of people like to play Charmeleon, because Charmeleon just means that you can evolve a Charmander in the background and then threaten a Charizard play the following turn. Also playing Radiant Charizard, because if I'm going to play a Radiant Pokemon, I might as well play another Charizard. Now, I have seen some people say, like, why not just play Radiant Greninja for more consistency? And I would agree with that if this deck was already playing Magma Basin. But because I feel like you don't need Magma Basin, then I don't feel like you need Radiant Greninja. That seems like weird logic to most people probably, but I really like Charizard as a single prize option, especially in the late game. It's a lot more damage than Entei will ever toss out. And basically 250 is just really solid in the late game as a nice single prize option. It's essentially like attacking with Charizard, if a bit less. But it does mean that if our opponent puts a wall in the active, something we can't deal with, like, I don't know, Rogue Mimikyu or something weird, or, maybe they bench like an Arceus V by mistake, definitely seen that before, you can just boss KO it with a Radiant Charizard. So definitely a viable option. Also, if you're losing the game, like your opponent's gone down to 1 prize or something, you've gone down to 2, you could maybe attach like a Defiant Band or something to this and then boss KO a Pidgeot and knock that out, or one of your opponent's benched Arceus that's still around and kicking, because that's honestly one of the best ways to win the mirror. Should probably mention that as well. Like, one of the best ways to win the Charizard mirror is not by knocking out Charizards. It's simply just to knock out the Pokemon that are worth the same amount of prize cards, but a lot less tankier, so Arceus and Pidgeot. But yeah, that's kind of like why I prefer Radiant Charizard over Radiant Greninja. I understand why people would prefer the extra draw power, but I personally don't think it's needed in the early game. I think you can just get there with Starbirth, and then of course once you get Pidgeot set up, you can just, choose any card that you want from your hand, from your deck rather I should say. And then of course Bibarel will just allow you to drop TR5 cards in hand, assuming that you'll need that to counter Iono. So that's kind of it for the Pokemon. As for trainers, it's pretty self-explanatory. There is some interesting quote inclusions, like 2 copies of Judge you don't always see in Charizard lists, just because I value disruption quite a lot. This list is also playing 1 copy of Path to the Peak, which does seem a bit counterintuitive, but it's basically to say, I'm a Charizard deck and I can play Path to the Peak if I really want to. For instance, if you set up a Charizard play that allows you to go into then an Arceus play, you could then Starbirth for a missing piece and then Path to the Peak. So you just then path the opposing Charizard player, or, something like a Mew, for example. So honestly, I really like Path to the Peak in this deck as a one-off. I don't think you need more than 1 copy, but it is a cool inclusion. Also running 1 Cheren's Care, just in case we fancy to Starbirth it. Now, we could also use Pidgeot as well to remove Pidgeot from the game if it's becoming a liability. So maybe we set up 2 Charizards, and then the opponent's like, I'll probably just KO Pidgeot because it's a lot lower in HP, gives up 2 prize cards. We can remove Pidgeot or Arceus from the board with Cheren's Care. Pretty useful option. Also running 1 Choice Belt over Defiant Band just for plus 30 damage more consistently against Vs. Just means you'll be getting those higher numbers quicker. Any other trainers that are worth talking about? Split the Switch and Escape Rope, just because we can only afford to really play 3 Boss's Orders. Can't play 4 Gusts in this deck really, so makes sense to play at least 1 Escape Rope. I was initially playing 3 Rare Candy, but after adding Pidgeot into the list definitively, definitely need 4 Rare Candy to make sure we can find it. Also playing 1 Lost City that just says whenever a Pokemon is knocked out, put that Pokemon in the Lost Zone instead of the discard pile. Basically just means we can boss KO stuff like Radiant Greninja, so Chen Pao can't attack us multiple times, basically. It also means that we can remove other threats from the game, like a Genesect, to permanently disrupt our opponent's draw power if they had ways of recovering Genesect, which they might not, but, you know, something worth considering. Also pretty good at removing single prize attackers and stuff like Lost Zone. So honestly, I really like a lot the idea of Lost City. It can, of course, be problematic if, you know, you're trying to set up 2 Charizards, your opponent boss KOs a Charmander, then Charmander's just gone forever, and you only play 3 copies in this deck. So I can see why that's a bit sketch, but honestly, that's something you could change about this list if you really hate it. You could either remove Lost City and add in a 4th Charmander, or find room for the 4th Charmander and Lost City. As for energy, pretty self-explanatory, 8 basic fire, 4 double turbo, because we are trying to attack with Arceus in the early game. But as for some closing thoughts on Charizard, I think this deck is really solid. I don't think it's broken, I don't think it's necessarily S tier or anything, but I do think it's a really solid tier 2 deck. It does have some unfavorable matchups, it seems. Lost and Giratina seems to absolutely farm this deck. But aside from that, it seems like a really solid pick for the ladder. And if you're looking for something very easy to, you know, just switch your brain off and play, then Charizard is, of course, a very valid option. But yeah, it's been Iono PAL. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching. So just getting into a game here. Hopefully it doesn't go south too quickly. Say that because the last game I tried to record, TCG Live, just straight up crashed. And I lost a lot of progress for some reason on the ladder, as well as the deck that I'd made. So it's a very strange game, honestly. It makes me very skeptical and reluctant to put my faith in TCG Live most of the time, but we'll see how it goes. I've also experienced a lot of problems with lag lately on TCG Live, not just recorded footage, which I'm aware is laggy, unfortunately, but also just playing it just straight up has been pretty laggy lately, which sucks a lot as well, because honestly, the first few days of TCG Live, I remember playing the first few days of Scarlet and Violet, I should say, wasn't particularly laggy, but it seems like ever since then, oh my gosh, his hand's terrible. Ever since then, like, it's been pretty grim, but yeah, we'll just have to see what we're up against here. We open with Pidgey, which is a pretty bad starter in all honesty. We're up against a, yeah, looks like a Chen Pao deck. Hopefully we get some good draws of these mulligans though. Looks like my opponent mulliganed twice there. Yeah, want 2 mulligans. You see, this is the reason why I scoop and I get angry. Like, why in all of the RNG of this deck do I open with 2 Charizards, 2 research, only play 2 research in this list, and 4 basic energy? Like, what kind of RNG is that? It's just so bad. But anyway, we'll see what my opponent does. They might just KO my Pidgey here and win the following turn. I mean, if they do that, then I mean, I don't know what to say at that point. I could retaliate with Charizard, but unfortunately, we don't quite want to KO Chen Pao, so they get the first hit on Zard anyway. So this matchup is honestly a little bit awkward. They're also playing Blastoise VMAX, which is super interesting. Like, you really don't always see Blastoise VMAX. But if they miss Frigibax this turn, then that's pretty good at least. Means they won't be accelerating all that energy. They do have Melanie, which we do have to be careful of. Okay, so we do have to get a basic down. Ditching all these cards would suck. Fortunately, though, we do get an Iono, so have to decide if I want to attach an energy to the active. I'll just say no. So we know that at least 2 Charizard are on the bottom of the deck, but clutch Iono from the top deck there did save us a bit. Never mind. It's fine. Just don't draw any basics. I love recording games for YouTube, guys, in case you can't tell. Could probably... Actually, do I even want to attach that? I mean, we could. I suppose it means I don't have to, like... Yeah, I guess. I mean, we've basically just lost at this point anyway, but... Yeah, is there even a point? I mean, they just need 1... Yeah, is it 1 basic energy? I mean, that's crazy. I really thought I'd hit a basic off that. Just 1 basic would be nice. Yep. We concede. Doesn't matter. They just... Yeah, okay. Super unfortunate. Can go again, though. Yeah, this sounds like weird in the final video. It's probably because I've just literally removed that scoop out. So frustrating. Like, It is annoying when you play an evolution deck and that just happens. It is fairly rare, to be fair, like, and that's what makes it more annoying when you're like recording. It's like all these stupid things happen that obviously wouldn't happen the minute you stop hitting record. Like, I remember having the same issue on TCGO. Like, you would record a game and it would be terrible, and then you'd play one game off on like the ladder, not recording, and the match would be fantastic. You know, you'd be this massive back and forth deck. Okay, at least we get to collect some cards. I'll take them. Oh, we've got serious lag here. What's going on? Okay, play a supporter. I'll take that. So we do get 50 gold. You can probably tell that I've basically been spending my credits and crystals quite a bit. Probably more than I should be, because I should be saving up for 151, but yeah, I'll collect these rewards. This will probably be like far too laggy to upload and stuff, but if it glitches, this video will never see the light of day, by the way, but we'll see how it goes. 50 gold coins, get another gold path to the peak, which is nice. Another gold level ball, which personally I don't care because I just prefer the old artwork for level ball anyway. So we'll get booster pack wise though. A new Meltan for the Trunk League, that's fine. What else? Tadbulb. What do you do? Yeah, you're a bit too strong, unfortunately. Doug Trio is bulk. Skip. Okay, Hollow Toad Skull. I do like that because Mud Slap is actually pretty good for 2 colors in Lechonk League. Beartic. Yeah, don't care about Beartic. Anything? Okay, Tyranitar, that's nice. This would be a really cool pull, but unfortunately I already went out of my way to craft a bunch of the full arts, so bit of a shame on that front, but still, not the worst pull in the world. Okay, we've got a Bonsley, it's fine. Already got a reverse Bonsley. Cryogonal is whatever, don't care. Houndoom, again, I really don't care. Okay, Rev Finzian, I guess its name is, that's okay. Alt-Art Bellybolt, you know, I'll take that. This does see playing Zortbox sometimes, so that's cool. And a third Toxtricity with Loudmix, so I guess I have to do a Toxtricity deck at some point. But yeah, nothing crazy. Didn't get any credits for that, which kind of sucks, but yeah, I got some gold. It's fine, I guess. But yeah, we can go back and try another game. I am playing in casual. If you really want to see my ranked, it's 250. I know it's pathetic. I just haven't been playing at all on the TCG ladder, really. I'll try another game in casual. Ranked is usually a sweatfest of Lost Zone, and I kind of quit casual, well, ranked at that point. But I could go back to ranked if it means better chance of finding a deck that's, you know, more popular. Because there is that like problem that if you play against a more competitive player, yes, the game is more interesting and intense, but a lot of the time you might just get bodied. But if you play against a deck that's way too casual, then people just complain because if they feel like it's not a proper representation of the deck, which is understandable. You know, you want to see if the deck is actually worth your time and effort to craft and build, but yeah, it's weird. Do I want to go first? I think I probably do with this deck. I like to swing with Arceus turn 2 out the gate, so you don't have like any really great options for going second, so unless you're playing like Cleffa, which I removed from this list. That's one of the reasons why I do like Cleffa, actually, is if you have to go second, then it's not the worst starter in the world, and you can definitely find it quite easily. So I do get to go first. It's a nice start. And, okay, so we do get the Charmander, which is fine. Opponents also got Koraidon sleeves, so one could assume that's what they're playing, but might be wrong. Hopefully it's Koraidon, because then that means they won't be able to donk us or anything like that, so we don't have to worry about Charmander getting knocked out. Okay, so start with Bidoof. That's, Bidoof is whatever. Could mean anything, really. Another Charmander, that's pretty good. I do want a Bibarel down, though, for next turn, because otherwise we won't be able to draw any cards, so I'll go ahead and discard one of the Bibarels and Basic Energy. Then I'll use Ultra Ball. Oop, got some serious lag here. Okay, so that's interesting. I could get Arceus V here, but I think I'm just going to go for Bidoof. See what else is in deck, actually. All 3 Charizards. Got a Radiant Charizard. Cheren's Cares on the list. That's fine. Might not need Arceus this game, but we'll see. Usually at least 1 Starbirth is correct. Well, 1 Starbirth per game anyway, but, you know, 1 Arceus, I should say, is enough. But yeah, I'm going ahead and bench Bidoof and then Charmander. I don't have to attach an energy, and I don't think I will, actually, in case we have to retreat. But Yeah, we'll just leave it for now. We don't need much, really. It's a nice thing about Charizard is you don't have to worry about manually attaching. You can just Rare Candy and the ability does it all for you. Admittedly, if, we get Path to the Peak, then that's obviously a bit more of a problem, but hopefully that doesn't happen. We do actually get stuffed over quite badly. Okay, so we are potentially looking at the reverse donk here. So it went very south for us last game, but maybe it's going to go okay for us this game. So I'm going to... What am I going to do here? So I have an interesting proposition. I could Bibarel for 3 cards and then send it all to the bottom of the deck if I don't draw anything I want. That doesn't seem like a terrible option, actually. And then at least I won't be able to see these cards again if I can't play them. Never mind, we just win. You see, this is the duality of recording games on TCG Live. So discard boss, and doesn't matter what we discard, as long as we don't discard the Rare Candy. Ultra Ball them away. One of those rare times where we actually draw okay. Get the Charizard artwork that we really want. And then, yeah, that'll just be it. It's just a bit boring, really. This is why I'm really hesitant to invest any kind of time into recording games. Evolve that one, please. Because it's just you just end up with these games where either you get donked, you donk your opponent, or your opponent concedes, you concede. So annoying, honestly. I don't know how most YouTubers put up with it, to be honest. I think they must sieve through a lot of games and stuff. I know that a lot of them Twitch stream as well, which probably helps with finding games that are worth recording, but go ahead and attach these, I guess. Don't need to attach them, but it is whatever. And then we'll just hit them for 180, and that'll be the game. And honestly, this video is long enough as is. It doesn't seem that long in the end, but it will be fairly long once it all racks up, so this will unfortunately be where I do say goodbye. If I get any more rewards, I'll collect them quickly. But yeah, this has been Ember Power. Thank you for watching. I'm not going to stick around to do all the theatrics, but it is what it is for Charizard. Seems pretty solid overall. There's definitely, this hasn't been the best showcase of the deck's potential, not in a long shot. But I'm also strapped for time today, and I'm not going to be going out of my way to record more gameplay. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about Charizard down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.